Let's bring into the screen Jared Isaacman, the CEO of Shift4 Payments. And this payments processor, year to date, the stock is up almost 25%. They announced today a new partnership with Tao Group Hospitality. You can go to the Tao Group Hospitality webpage and see all the restaurants they've got in New York City and across the world. So congratulations on that. But this pandemic has changed the way we all use our phones for digital payments. So I can only imagine your forward guidance is probably looking pretty good.
Yeah, so we did actually just raise our guidance about 20% for 2021 just at the conclusion of Q1. So, you know, Shift4 has benefited quite a bit. I mean, even though we focus on delivering integrated payment solutions for the hospitality and restaurant verticals, we've been a pretty big share taker in it over our 21-year history. So even during the pandemic, we actually grew payment volume double digits. And that's not because our customers weren't impacted by the pandemic. They absolutely were. It was simply because we have a value proposition that resonates really well during the best and worst economic times. So we're now seeing, you know, a combination of the volume that we've accumulated in the 21 years history, the volume that we've accumulated over the last years, we've added new customers, and now you couple that with, you know, people coming out, you know, re-engaging in commerce, weather warming, you know, COVID restrictions loosening, and a lot of pent-up demand, and it's causing some pretty extraordinary volume growth that we're seeing now and as we expect through the years ahead.
Jared, you mentioned a lot of your clients are hotels and restaurants. What are they telling you? Yes, we've seen this bounce back. Are we at the levels that we saw pre-pandemic? How does it compare?
So, I mean, that's a great question, and it's literally changing by the day. So it's been interesting, actually, throughout the pandemic, right? I mean, even if you were to take the summer of 2020, so almost a year ago, you had hotels that were in the proximity of a national park, and they were sold out as people took to the road and just tried to escape some of the realities of the pandemic. But if you wanted to stay at one of our hotels that we process payments for in a city, they might very well have been closed. As we move into 2021, you typically had at the beginning of the year, restaurants were down on average about 30%. From pre-pandemic levels, and hotels were down between 40 and 50%. Now that's changed as we progress through Q1, so much so that, I mean, in warmer weather climates from Q1, you had Florida and Texas blowing out volume levels from pre-pandemic levels in a pretty extraordinary way. And now as we look at the country, you know, in recent days, I would say you're at or above pre-pandemic levels in most major markets.
Are you seeing permanent changes in consumer behavior that we can expect forevermore? That's it?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of exuberance right now for sure. Just that whole pent-up demand concept. It's coupled a little bit with some of the stimulus that's causing people to get out and travel and spend and just, you know, get their lives going again. You know, how long that will stay will be interesting to see. But what I will say, there are some trends that have changed, right? I mean, you know, QR code-based payments, for example. We pioneered some of that technology in 2014. Never really took off. Throughout the pandemic, we obviously saw people pulling up menus with their phones, but then they're also paying via QR codes. They're even ordering with QR codes. I think some of that is here to stay because it's just convenient. Why do you want to wait for that back and forth dance with your credit card when you're at a restaurant? You can just scan a code, put a tip in, leave a happy survey, and leave, and maybe even get some loyalty points along the way. I think that's going to last for a pretty long time.
Jared, are retailers, clothing retailers, are they also picking up on this at the same speed that some of the restaurants and hotels are?
I'm sorry, I missed kind of the first part of that question.
Are the retailers, say, I don't know if Lululemon's a client, but it comes to my mind because they were just out with earnings today, but are some of the retailers picking up these trends as quickly as, say, the restaurants and hotels are?
I think it's different, to be honest. You know, for sure in the retail space, you've got a lot of, you know, e-commerce volume that was pulled forward a little bit from a trend that was happening anyway. Omnichannel continues to become very important in e-commerce, but I think restaurants and hotels is where maybe even the bigger transformations were as a result of the pandemic. So, I mean, it wasn't uncommon just, 18 months ago that we'd be waiting in line at a Hilton, for example, to get our room key. Now, people are definitely going to be checking in with their phone. They're going to be opening their room key, their door with their phone. They may never go to the front desk. With restaurants, tons of restaurants that were getting by without online ordering or, participating in some of the network-affected delivery players like Grubhub, DoorDash, Uber Eats. Like, these are just ways of life now. So I think there's probably been even a little bit more transformation in restaurant hospitality than in retail.
One thing, when you talk about the QR codes, we actually were at a place last night, used the QR code, and I noticed that it was bizarre in how if you wanted to order multiple things but in different variations, it made it difficult. Do you ever interface with the restaurants and obviously chains about way to make this easier for us who want to use QR codes and fintech this way?
Yeah, so I mean, during the pandemic, you literally had probably 100 startups that all came out with some variations of QR code-based ordering and menus. Not all of them were flawless, right? They were put together really fast to solve an urgency of the day. We absolutely love our QR code-based ordering system. I would venture to guess that probably most of the QR-based restaurant payments in this country is originating through Shift4 payment technology. So we're pretty happy with what we've pioneered. I'm sure there are some out there that need to continue to be refined. What I'd be willing to bet on is that QR payments are here to stay. I think it's just way too convenient to scan a QR code with your phone, pay, get some rewards, and leave without ever having to do the back and forth interaction. The actual QR menus, I think people will use real menus again. And I think people will enjoy talking to waiters and waitresses and asking questions and having conversations about their food order. So some of that may revert back, but I think elements of it, like QR-based payments, is going to stick around.
It was 5-napkin burger, and we did the whole thing QR code with payment, and it's a different world, and it's a lot easier. Jared Isaacman, CEO of Shift4 Payments, we appreciate your being here. Congratulations again on the new deal with Tao Group Hospitality.